Hello and welcome to today's Hangout with me. I'm Carol Dodsley, better known as the Gplus How2 Girl, and this is the very first of my brand new series that I am bringing to you with experts from all over the world who are going to share some inspiration and really give you things to think about. They're going to help you explode your life and your business. And today I am so excited because I have a gentleman who's back with me, who has been with me before, and his name is Bob Burg. And what I want to do is just give you a little introduction about what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to ask you, can you really systematically and consistently get the results that you want from others while making them feel genuinely good about themselves, about the process, and about you? Well, my special guest says absolutely. Bob's a sought-after speaker at corporate conferences and for entrepreneurial events. He regularly addresses audiences ranging in size from 50 up to 16,000, sharing the platform with notables including today's top thought leaders, broadcast personalities, Olympic athletes, political leaders, including the former United States President. And although for years he's been best known for his book Endless Referrals, over the past few years it's been his business parable, The Go-Giver, which he co-authored with John David Mann, that has really captured the heart and imagination of his readers. It shot to number 6 on the Wall Street Journal's bestsellers list just 3 weeks after its release, and it reached number 9 on the Business Weeks. Since its release, it's consistently stayed in the top 25 on 800 CEO Reads Business Book bestseller list, and it's been translated into 21 languages. How awesome is that? It's his 4th book to sell over 250,000 copies, and he believes that his new book, Adversaries into Allies, Win People Over Without Manipulation and Coercion, is actually by far his most important work yet. Bob's an advocate, a supporter and defender of the free enterprise system, believing that the amount of money that you make is directionally proportional to how many people you serve. And he's also an unapologetic animal fanatic and serves as a member of the board of directors of Furry Friends Adoption and Clinic in Jupiter, Florida. So absolutely an awesome guy, and I'm just so pleased to have him with us. So I'm going to go over now and say hi. Bob, come and say hello.
Hello, Carol. How are you?
I am awesome, and even more awesome because I have you with me again, which is so great to have somebody come back again and spend their time with me and share some of your insights and your inspiration with everybody that's out there watching us.
Well, I love being with you and love getting a chance to speak with you again.
Awesome. So let's talk about, and as I say, if everybody can see that, I have my, oops, I always have to make sure I get it in the right place. I actually have my copy that has come all the way from the US to me, so I am so proud to have this copy. And just before we start talking, if anybody wants to download the first chapter, there is a link in the Google Plus event where you can go across to Bob's website, find out more about this book, and download some of it as well, so you get a head start. Okay, so let's get Bob sharing some of what this book is really all about, and you know, why is it so important? You know, just tell me, Bob, first of all, why did you write it? What gave you the inspiration to write this book?
Well, you know, I think, Carol, people have really come to realize that you can have many, practically all of the most important and most positive success skills. You can be very talented and of extremely high character. You can be ambitious and kind, charitable, hardworking, thrifty, energetic. You can have a knack for numbers and a head for business. You can be even-tempered and creative and much more. And all that's great, by the way. Of course, that's terrific. However, unless you can influence others, move people to the desired and appropriate action, then attaining any kind of really significant success is going to be hard to come by. On the other hand, when combining benevolent intent and a learned skill set, you can then constantly, consistently, and even predictably attain the results you want, both personally and in business, while adding exceptional value to everyone whose lives you touch. And that's really what I call ultimate influence. The ability to get the results you want from others while helping them feel genuinely good about themselves, about the situation, and about you. And, excuse me, those people who can do that, these are the people who really have an advantage in life, because we've seen people who really do have so many of those other skills, and they have great talent. And by the way, I'm not in any way denigrating talent. Being good at what you do is very, very important. However, that's sort of just the baseline. That gets you into the game, allowing you to play. But to be really successful, you've got to be able to really work with people, really be able to communicate in a way that's positive, and really develop your influence. And those who can do that, again, really just have that advantage. And many people think, oh, that's just a knack that they have. Not at all. It's something that's very, very learnable. Carol, I've lost the sound. Can you hear
No,
me?
you didn't lose the sound. I lost the sound. I muted myself when you were talking, and I forgot to unmute. This is professional Hangout interviewer. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
I think it's really interesting when you say there that this is something you can learn, because a lot of people, they think it does have to be natural, and if you're not natural, then it's just never going to work for them. But you brought up that it's learnable, it's a skill set that you can learn, but you also use the word influence. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, the word influence means something slightly different. What is it that you think influence, or give me your description of influence? And just you've given a bit of an idea of why it's important, but some people, when they think influence, it's like, oh, does that mean somebody has to learn how to manipulate other people so that they can get their attention and get them to do what they want? And I don't think that's what you mean, is it?
Yeah, no. And there are actually a couple of really good questions there within that one question. The first is, what is influence? And on a very, very basic level, influence is simply the ability to move a person or persons to a desired action, usually within the context of a specific goal. Now, influence is not about pushing someone to do something. You never hear people say, wow, that Carol, she is so influential. She has a lot of push with people. No, she has a lot of pull with people, because that's really what influence is. It's gentle pull. Influence really is an attraction. Great influencers attract people to themselves and to their ideas. And again, they do this not through push, but through its opposite, pull. Now, this pull we're talking about is really a very legitimate form of power. Power being the opposite of force. Force being control, it's manipulation, it's intimidation, it's compliance. It's that boss who says, do it this way because I'm the boss and that's it. And it's not that you can't do that, you can, but you won't be nearly as effective as if you find a way to focus on how you can benefit others, how you can tie your goals into their goals, their needs, their wants, their desires. So you may obtain compliance, but you won't obtain commitment that way. And there's a huge difference between commitment and compliance when you're a leader or an influencer. I love what one of my great friends and mentors, Dondi Sfumaci, says about this. Dondi says, compliance will never take you where commitment can go. And so the great leaders and influencers are always asking themselves, how does what I'm asking this person to do, how does that help that other person? How does that build that other person? So this brings up, so what's the difference between manipulation and persuasion? See, we can influence one of two ways. You can influence through manipulating another person. You can influence through persuading another person. And the two of them are what I call cousins. Because both the manipulator and the persuader, Carol, understands human motivation and what causes people to take action. The big difference is one of them's the evil cousin and one of them's the good cousin. Manipulation is the evil cousin. So what is the difference? Well, it begins with intent, but that's only where it begins. Dr. Paul Sweats, in his excellent book, The Art of Talking So That People Will Listen, which was much more about listening than talking, but it was a great book. He said in his book that manipulation aims at control, not cooperation. It results in a win-lose situation. It does not consider the good of the other party. In direct contrast to the manipulator, the persuader seeks to enhance the self-esteem of the other party. The result is that people respond better because they're treated as responsible, we could say response-able, self-directing individuals. So the manipulator, doesn't care if they have to hurt someone. They may not want to hurt someone else. They just probably don't care. In other words, whatever it takes to get them what they want, even if it hurts another human being. That's manipulation. The persuader won't do that. The persuader always wants to know that they are helping the other person as well. So it begins with intent, but that's not where it ends. Because, see, both the manipulator and the persuader can cause a person to take immediate action. But with the manipulator, that's as far as it goes. Because once someone does something when they feel manipulated, they won't trust that person again. A manipulator can have employees, but very rarely a team of committed people. A manipulator can make a sale, but very rarely have a happy customer, and practically never a walking ambassador for them. And a manipulator can have a family who they love and who loves them, but very rarely is it a functional family. On the other hand, the persuader, when you're persuaded, you feel good about that person, and you feel good about yourself, and you're going to buy into what they ask. And so the difference between manipulation and persuasion starts with intent, but it carries over to results. Being a persuader is good life, and it's good business.
Awesome. And I love the way you spoke there about it creates trust, and it's about pull, not about push.
Right.
Now, you also said that you can learn influence, that you can learn the skill set and everything. Now, something though that came up there in my mind that I'm thinking quite a few people might be thinking is, okay, if I can learn this, could I be actually a manipulator, but I'm going to learn this and do that? Or is that a complete, no, that just won't work, because people will notice the difference and they're still not quite going to do it, even though you've said that we can learn influence?
Well, could someone be a manipulator? Well, they could. Hopefully I make the case in the book that that's not going to serve you to be a manipulator. Okay? That you're going to get much more, that even if your sole reason for doing this is because you want to get more of what you want in life, you're going to get a lot more and go a lot further by being a persuader and positive influencer than you're going to get by being a manipulator. So could someone? Sure. Hopefully they won't. And I also talk in the book about how to tell if you're being manipulated by someone.
Awesome.
Right. So we don't want to, the world is as the world is. And there are always going to, and that's why one of the things I say is there's nothing worse, there's nothing more dangerous than a bad person with good people skills. History has had plenty of examples of people who they certainly were manipulators. They had influence, right? I mean, you can't say they didn't, but it was manipulation, and it was for very bad ends. So could someone? Yes. Hopefully that's not, what someone's going to want to do.
And when you say there about people in the past, we've seen a lot of manipulators and they've achieved a lot. But a lot of those, when I look back, the people that I'm thinking of that I know have really achieved a lot as a manipulator, in the end, they have actually been incredibly unhappy, incredibly lonely, and they've actually lost everything.
Oh, well, that typically does happen because they're not basing their success on foundational principles. And so, and very few can manipulate. I mean, there are con artists out there, and they typically, if you look at their rap sheet, they've done a lot of time in jail too. So while you know what I'm saying? So in other words, there's all sorts of people in the world, and you can't say that that people are going to be as we want them to be. What we can do is we can be influencers that are very positive and touch people's lives with excellence and in a very positive way. We can also make sure that we don't allow ourselves to be put in a position where we are manipulated by someone else. So the life skills and the people skills that I provide in this book are going to help someone who really, really wants to be a positive persuader and make a difference in their world. And at the same time, they're going to be equipped not to be manipulated by someone who is a manipulator. But, you know, by and large, I think the case is made in the book that you get a lot further by not being a manipulator than you do by being.
And I think, again, that is something that is really important. Quite often there's a book that will teach you how to do something, but it doesn't teach you the other side. And you've just said there, this will teach you how to influence people, but it will also teach you how not to allow other people to manipulate you and how to recognize that, which I think is absolutely awesome, that this is like a two-way, it's not a one-way book.
Well, there's nothing, and that's what the one reason why, and I think you bring up a great point. One reason why is because there's nothing about this that is what would be the you know, that's I guess warm and fuzzy, as we would say, in a way that's not realistic. You know, in other words, we're talking about very realistic things. We're not talking about being naive, and we're not talking, you know, one of the things I say in the book is, you know, do nice people necessarily finish last? And I say, no. Do nice people necessarily finish first? No. It has, being nice is a great thing. It's very important, both because it's the right way to be, and also it's easier to be persuasive when you're genuinely nice, genuinely kind. But being nice in and of itself isn't going to be what makes you successful. It's also having the tools and the skills and the knowledge, the success principles to be able to apply. At the same time, when someone says, well, what if I'm too nice and that I'm taking advantage of? Those two things, there's no natural connection. There is absolutely no natural connection between being nice and being taken advantage of, which is why in that same chapter I say, if you're nice and find yourself being taken advantage of, it's not because you're nice. It's because you're doing things in such a way that you allow yourself to be taken advantage of. So where we dispel some myths in the book that, you know, that people have, just based on sort of what we see on TV and in the movies and all these things that sometimes don't really paint an accurate picture.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you also talk in the book about the fact that there's 5 principles of ultimate influence. Can you share what they are?
Sure. The principles themselves are control your own emotions, understand the clash of belief systems, acknowledge their ego, set the proper frame, and communicate with tact and empathy.
Awesome. Now there's one there, acknowledge their ego. Now we know that ego gets in the way an awful lot of time. We all have an ego, but when we allow our ego to rule our life, it actually doesn't normally end up particularly pleasant for anybody. How do you talk to that? How do you recognize their ego? How do you talk to their ego?
Sure. Well, first we understand that the ego in and of itself is simply, literally, it's the I. It's that part of ourselves that understands that we are a unique individual. And that's fine. And when we harness the ego and when we control the ego, we can do great things, both for ourselves and society as a whole. That's wonderful. But as you say, it's when the ego controls us. That's when there are problems. And so we know we need to control our own ego. We need to acknowledge our own. The key is, as you said, acknowledging the other person's. How do you know? Now, when I say acknowledge their ego, I don't mean saying to the person, hey, buddy, your ego, wow, it's really big. You know, no, that's going to have the opposite effect. That's not going to help. I mean acknowledge it in your own mind. Acknowledge that if they are acting in a way that is unkind, that's unhelpful, that is contrary even to their own interests, there's a good possibility that they're not really thinking logically and rationally, but that their ego has gotten a hold of them and is controlling them in the situation. And we need to be careful about that. We need to acknowledge it and understand that that is often part of the process. It's not something we can ignore and think that we're going to get the results we want. We've got to work into that within that framework.
Yeah. And you also say that there's one question that you can ask that's pretty much guaranteed to keep a potential misunderstanding from ever taking place. And I think this is something that loads of people would love to know. Well, what is it? What is it?
Yeah, this goes back to belief systems. Understand the clash of belief systems. And a belief itself, Carol, is simply a subjective truth. It's the truth as we understand the truth to be, which might not be the actual truth. The belief system, a belief system is sort of a person's operating system. It's the lens through which they see the world. And everything they do is based on this lens. A person's belief system is basically a combination of upbringing, environment, schooling, news media, television, movies, popular culture, cultural mores, everything that person ever sees, touches, smells, said, the whole hear, see, touch, taste, and smell. And it begins very young. And we get most of our beliefs by the time we're really little more than a toddler. And we don't question those beliefs, right? We just do. It's just the way we see the world. So we don't say, how did this person come up with this conclusion, or what's the premise here? No, we just accept. Well, as we get older, we pretty much still do the same thing. So most of us walk around with an operating system, a belief system that we're not even aware we have. We are basically run by that belief system, and we don't even know it. Well, it's the same with that other person with whom you're about to have a difficult interpersonal transaction or situation. They are run by their belief system or operating system that they're not even aware of. Now, to top it off, as human beings, we tend to think that everybody else sees the world as we see the world. That's why you'll hear people saying things like, oh, everybody feels that way. Not everybody feels that way. You feel that way. Some others do, but not everyone. Nobody likes that. Actually, that's not true. Some people do. You don't. I would never say that or do that to someone. No, you wouldn't, because that's not part of your beliefs. Oh, you know what I'm saying? So we all are basically operating, coming from these different beliefs that we're not conscious of and don't realize are different. So where does this go? How does this relate back to making sure misunderstandings don't take place? Simple as this. Let's say your friend says, hey, let's meet tomorrow at 5 o'clock at the beach. And you say, okay, sure. So at 5 o'clock the next afternoon, you go to the beach where the general meeting place is at the beach, and they're not there. Why not? You agreed 5 o'clock you were going to meet at the beach. Well, the next day your friend says, where were you? I was at the beach at 5 o'clock. No, you weren't. I was there. Yes, I was. Where were they? They were at that brand new restaurant that just opened that's called The Beach. Okay, you both misinterpreted because you had two different definitions of the beach. Now, let's take the project manager comes back and says, hey, team, oh, no, just talk to the client. The deadline has changed. We need to get this project done immediately. What does immediately mean? To one person, it means right away, so I can't go to the game tonight with my child. I'm going to have to work late. The other person immediately means 3 days from now. Another person, it means a week from now. To another person, immediately means as soon, immediately after we get through with the other project. So we need to find a way to be able to ask a question that just simply keeps the misunderstanding from happening. So it might be as simple as, Dave or Patricia, when you say immediately, is there a specific day you're thinking of? Or it could be, when you say the beach, what beach are you referring to? Or what exactly do you mean by, or how would you define? And so that's what we're basically doing. What that one question is basically asking that person to define what they mean. Now, here's what's key. It's the way we say it. See, if we say to this person, well, what does immediately mean? I don't know what immediately means. Is that tomorrow? Is that today? What did the clock? Okay, so we can make that person defensive, and that's not good people skills. So what we might want to say is use an I message and say, Dave, just for my own clarification, when you say immediately, Is there a specific day you're thinking of? Boom, and that's it. And that's how we keep misunderstandings from ever happening. In a very kind, tactful, polite way, we simply ask that person to define what they mean by that word.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's all about clarification, isn't it? And I'm just having a look. We've actually got a question that I want to bring up because we're almost coming to the end of our half hour together. Sandra said, I think you're saying, Bob, my success is measured by the success I have influenced, encouraged others to achieve.
Well, Sandra, that's, not only a sign of success, it's a sign of a great leader. And what a real leader does is they genuinely put other people's interests even before their own. Now, when I say that, and Carol, you and I discussed this last time, I think, when we talked about the go-giver. When we say place other people's interests first, we don't mean being a doormat or being a martyr or being self-sacrificial. We simply mean that when you think of it, relationships, all things being equal, people will do business with, refer business to, and allow themselves to be influenced by those people they know, like, and trust. And when you are a person who genuinely puts that other person's interest first, in other words, before thinking of yourself, you say, how is this going to benefit? How is this going to add value to this other person's life? You become that person they know, they like, they respect, they are committed to. So sure, when you help others, when you influence others to their success, you are going to be the most successful. And we need more people like you who really kind of get that.
Yeah, and I think that is, and I like the way, I'm so glad that you brought in there, putting others first does not mean ignore yourself. It doesn't mean you give everything for free and you never get anything back.
Alignment, right. Right, the two should be in alignment, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Would you say, because this is all talking about influence, this is talking about skills you can learn, and obviously in your book people can learn all of that and how not to be manipulated so they get the other side. What about when people, there's just not that gel, and even if somebody wanted to, they've sort of got in touch with, or they're dealing with someone who they know is not a good fit? Would you advise them to still use these principles, or to actually walk away in a nice way, not have an argument and walk away, but sometimes there isn't going to be that, and actually you're in the wrong place with the wrong people?
Well, it depends. It's a great question, and it depends on the situation. With some people, you don't necessarily have to have a great, loving relationship with them, but you can still work together with them because both of you recognize that, that there's an exchange of value for value and whatever it happens to be, and you're able to work together. Others, there's no congruency, and you simply cannot work with that person without really selling yourself out, or without being so uncomfortable that it's not going to work out. So without knowing an exact situation, I get now in the book I do tell a story, because in this book, aside from the chapter with the 5 laws, I basically tell stories. They're all short stories in which I've been in them, other people I know have, and I want the reader to be able to see themselves having been in each of these situations, so the next time something happens, they're equipped to be able to handle it in a really positive way. And I talk about, well, what if you're with someone who, having to do business with someone who really doesn't do business the way you want to? And I say one of the great things about this principle is it allows us to be able to, if there's any possible way of being able to do business with this person, this will allow us to. This will allow us, excuse me, to take that potential adversary and turn them into a friend, into an ally. However, if that other person's dishonest, if this other person, now, by the way, sometimes they're not dishonest in terms of against the law dishonest or even ethically dishonest, but you can just tell they're not really, you know what I'm saying? And there's times you still have to do business with them, but I show you how to be careful and how to communicate that you understand where they're at, and so they understand, you know what I'm saying? So again, we're able to protect ourselves. However, if this person was actually dishonest or unethical, no, of course, you would absolutely politely separate that. And I show how to do that in a way that, you can do it and keep your class and maintain your integrity. So, there's a time and place for most things. Above all, the world's not always perfect as we'd like it. So we need to be able to work within the context of most uncomfortable situations and turn those into workable situations.
Awesome stuff. And I just love the way that you tell stories, and that you're giving people all different sides, and that when they get the book that I'm so proud that I've got in my hand, and it's a hard copy as well, it's not even a paperback, which is even more awesome, that they're really going to be able to find something in this book that is really going to help them to take their life and their business forward feeling good, and feeling that they're achieving things in a way that comes with much more ease, much more flow, that creates much better two-way relationships and actually helps them and the people that they're working with.
Yeah, they're going to have a lot more fun in life. They're going to have a lot less stress, because let's face it, when people are predisposed to be on your side rather than against you, life is so much less stressful, and it's so much more fun. And business-wise, they'll be more profitable because they're going to learn how to be able to really add value to more people. But it's not just business, it's personal, it's family, it's so forth. So I hope people have a lot of fun with it. The feedback's been great, and we've really enjoyed it. So if we can help people improve in this area in their lives a little bit, it's worth the effort.
And I just think it's brilliant, and I'm just so sad that we've come to the end of our time that we've got available, and I'm going to have to say goodbye, because I could talk to you all day, every day about it, because I just love it, and I love the way you share things as well. So I'm just going to say a really big thank you for being here, Bob. Have you got one last thing that you would like to share, to just give everybody just one thing they could think about today?
Well, I think it all goes back to understanding that if you really, really want to be a powerful influencer, you make it about the other person.
Awesome. So that's it for today's show, and I am just so excited and so honored that Bob has been my very first guest on this new show that I am creating. Go and get your copy of Adversaries into Allies, and why not buy some people one for Christmas? Because this is really a book that is going to help so many people. And if anybody that's watching would like to know when I am doing my next interviews, pop a comment into the event to say, please circle me, and I will put you into a circle where I send invites out when I am running interviews, when I'm running my hangout shows. I'm not going to send you anything else, just invites. So if you'd like to be in that invite circle, pop in the comments, yes, please add me to the invite circle, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.